You there.
Oh, hello?
You a bounty hunter?
Well, not right now, I ain't. You Black Belle? I'd like to talk to you about your Wild West days.
I don't care much for reminiscing. You got any friends as bounty hunters?
None that spring to mind.
Well, then you done led them boys here and you none the wiser.
Ah, those bounty hunters.
Knew my luck had run out sooner or sooner.
Well, get inside. I'll tell him you're gone.
Oh, no. I ain't hiding from them scalp hunters. Not running from them neither. And fighting? Yeah, if it's just me against them, that'd be a waste of time and nitroglycerine.
Well, let me know what I can do.
You want that Wild West story, don't you?
Otis Miller's Revolver and the story behind the man with the golden gun help illuminate the myth versus the truth of the Old West. At the fundamental level, the gun is a custom Schofield revolver that's hidden out in New Austin, which means normally only John gets it. But you know that I can't let that stand.
This will not stand, you know? This aggression will not stand, man.
And y'all already know that this video is about our boy Arthur being able to get it.
Yes, I do.
All right, get up here quick.
So in this video, I'm going to show you a couple of things and try to answer some questions. First, do you need the map in order to get the treasure? Next, what's the common belief behind the story behind Otis Miller? And finally, how can we get the gun with Arthur? To answer our first question, I went ahead and used the meat shield glitch like you already know that we're going to, and I went into New Austin without getting the completed map. And sure enough, the gun's there, and it's marked on your compass when you're close enough. You can get the gun and start to grab the documents in the chest. I had a little difficulty with the documents, though. So that question's been answered. So before we go into an official run, let's back up a little bit. Simply getting the gun is good and all, but we're missing out on a lot of great storytelling. So let's start with what we know about Otis Miller's story. Otis Miller was a famous in-universe outlaw that's credited with the first holdup and robbery of a train in 1866, which is a full 33 years before RDR2 begins. We know Otis Miller was married. He had 3 sons, one of whom was arrested and eventually acquitted of charges related to train robbery. There's a newspaper in the epilogue that gives us those facts directly. Eventually, Otis Miller wound up being killed by someone whom he thought was a close friend, little Charlie Tatum. Now, I did not come up with this theory, but I do agree with it that during the course of collecting these elusive map pieces, you end up interacting with Charlie. Now, this is further backed up by a cigarette card that you can pick up showing the Otis Miller boys. If you look at the gentleman on the far left, he indeed does look like the character that we're about to talk about in a few minutes. Specifically, though, the giveaway here seems to be his height. Also, on a side note, the guy on the far right straight up looks like Wild Bill Hickok, an extremely famous real-life gunslinger. There are several additional in-game clues into Otis Miller's story, including a camp song, and if you listen to Arthur, if you get him drunk enough in camp, he'll sing a portion of a camp song that references Otis Miller's murder.
But that cowardly killer that shot Mr. Miller has laid old Otis in his grave. Yeah!
So let's collect the map pieces first, and then we'll go through this theory a little bit more. This is one of the parts that I find the most interesting. The map to Otis Miller's treasure is split in half. One half is held by Yosemite Sam at Manito Glade, north of Annisburg, and the other half is held by a Hermit Woman in Big Valley, near the source of the Little Creek River. They live on opposite sides of the map. They don't appear to have any obvious relationship outside of the fan speculation that we're going to talk about, and yet each of them has half of the route to Otis Miller's treasure. So, like I said, one of the map pieces is at Manito Glade, north of Annisburg. So this gentleman is very hostile, and he's also carrying the rare shotgun, but we'll talk about weapons in another video. He'll come out of his house once you get close enough and start having an aneurysm about you being there. Just be careful, though, because he can one-shot you with the shotgun that I mentioned. Once you deal with him, you can search his home and you can find a half of the torn map. This will lead us to the other piece of the map. When I initially was playing this game for the first time, I found myself always asking, why does this hermit have this torn half of a map to a treasure that he seems very disconnected from? Now, the more we look into various Otis Miller related items, I'm finding myself starting to believe the theory more and more that this guy is little Charlie Tatum. For one, this guy is so short, he has to look up to look down, and he wears this ridiculous hat to compensate. But more importantly, this guy's extremely paranoid, and I want to come back to that point later. So before we start talking about why these two characters are so psychologically damaged, we do need to get the second map piece, which is held by the old Hermit Woman in Big Valley. Her cabin is tucked away near the source of the Little Creek River, and she does not appreciate visitors either. She'll threaten us and sick her dogs on us.
Release the hounds.
But once the situation is handled, you'll lose some honor. I went ahead and I hogtied her. Of course, now we can go ahead and search her cabin, and you can find the other half of the torn treasure map. The common theory is that this woman is Otis Miller's widow. Now, if that's true, it does make me feel bad about hog-tying her, so I'm just going to let her go, and then we're going to head on out of here. Once you have both parts of the map, it'll automatically be put together for you. Now, the trail points us out west, all the way into New Austin. But let's take a look at what Otis Miller wrote on the back of this map. This interesting note from Otis Miller gives us a clue into how his life truly was, because we can find 3 dime store novels about Otis Miller that portray him as a hero who would help the poor and was loved by all. But as we'll find out later, for all this bluster and thumping that went on about him, the reality is a bit more grim. Otis Miller's life ended with him being chased and probably a bit paranoid himself, and of course, thinking that his refuge would be with his family and friends. So, let's officially get to finding this treasure, and this is where the treasure hunt does become a bit of a problem for Arthur, because New Austin's not exactly open for business during the main story. Okay, so we are all ready to go into New Austin. You guys have seen this run before during the Mustang video. So, again, just some general tips. This is not a very long ride. You don't need to go too crazy, and you get up over this hill here. And again, we're going to head over to Beecher's Hope. You can see the entrance right over here. Be careful because a cougar can spawn. And as usual, Pinkertons are spawning on our right, and they're going to see us. You're going to take a couple of hits here. Their accuracy is pretty perfect. Again, try to dodge all of the junk in the road and just follow the path. There's no need to do anything crazy. Now, at this point, the law should be searching for you. If you have a slightly slower horse, it's really not going to be that much slower. It might take a little bit longer. Now, you can try to get them to follow you a bit more if you shoot into the air, but let's just get a little further down. It really won't matter. So again, you're going to come up here to a T-junction, take a left, and then you're going to go through 2 four-ways. And then at the second 4-way, I'm trying to get them to follow me a bit more. That did not work at all. Then at the second 4-way, which is coming up right here, we're going to take a right. But I'm going to go ahead and cut through the grass here. Now, if the law hasn't found me, the Pinkertons are going to start to spawn in locations that aren't too terribly far from me. Again, this is nothing different than it was during the Mustang run. Okay, they spotted me. So I'm going to try to use this guy here to block some of the shots. And we're going to go ahead. Oh man, we're getting tore up here. Get some B12. Again, I'm going to go across this bridge here. And as soon as I cross this bridge, or I get to the bridge, I'm going to go ahead and aim. And you're going to hear a couple of shots. I got hit there. And the horse will eventually take a hit there, right there. And this time it looks as though the sniper shot off about 4 rounds before they started getting into a regular routine. And you'll notice the Pinkertons, they're gone. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to follow these train tracks for just a little bit here. This is nothing different. This should be the exact same path that you're taking every single time you come into New Austin. If you follow this path every single time, you will not have any issues trying to get through here. Again, keep a lookout for the law. You'll see these big old black dots on your compass. Make sure your compass is set to expanded, and then make sure you turn off the camera follow. Now, I am aiming the whole time so that I don't have to hold down A. It'll keep the horse's speed. It also allows me to look around. I have a bit more freedom of movement while I'm doing this. And you know where you need to turn left because there's always a camp. And you can start to see some smoke here in a little bit. But I'm going to keep following it, and the road is coming up right there, just off to the right. You see that smoke right there? That's where you need to turn. Don't go to the camp. You don't want to interact with anything out here. So this is where you know you need to turn. We just keep on going. Yeah, you see there's that camp right there to the left? It's always there. So that's a really great marker for you to know where to turn. So I'm just following the road now. We're going to take a right. Now, if you keep following this road, eventually you'll end up getting close to the McFarland Ranch. But I'm going to cut right in between these two trees right here because the road eventually just does, you can take a left and you're just going to meet up with the road here. Also, I don't like staying on the roads too much because the lawmen do like to spawn randomly. But so far I'm not seeing any lawmen. That's a little worrisome because they do like to just spawn right in front of you sometimes. Actually, we got some guy down here. I'm going to press down so that my camera, not my camera, the compass camera will zoom out just a little bit more. And that'll help me with seeing whether or not that's a lawman. So again, we're just going to follow this around. And where we're headed, we're actually headed towards Armadillo. So we do not need to get too far in here. And during this part here, what you do want to watch out for is any NPCs riding around. Try not to aim your gun at them. When you let go of your rifle, make sure that you keep the camera angled in such a way that you're not going to get shot. It's usually best keeping the camera off to the right of Arthur. So we're just going to keep on going here. No need to stop, keeping our current speed. Camera is fixed. This is a long path here. Nothing too crazy going on. Yep, we got a lawman. And he is moving extraordinarily slow. I don't think I've ever seen one walk this slow before. Oh, this is miserable. Oh, I just shoot him. That's all I want to do. Now, you can kill these lawmen. If you don't kill them in one shot, though, you'll immediately get a wanted status and Pinkertons will start spawning on top of you. So be careful. If you've got a rifle, make sure you have like express shots or some explosive rounds in here. God, he's going so slow. And I can't go off to the left because it's too steep of a drop. And then I risk falling and then horse gets knocked over. I get knocked off the horse and then you can get shot. So we're just going to have to suffer. And this is the kind of crap that you have to watch out for where you're down here. And all we need to do is get to Armadillo. And I think I'm just going to go off to the left here. If you do decide to go off to the left, just be careful. There's a little bit of a drop there. Just be careful. There's rocks, there's dips. You know, the terrain, if you're not very familiar with it, it can be a little cumbersome sometimes. Who's this guy? That's just an NPC. Yeah, I don't know what was up with that lawman. He was going real slow, and he didn't even speed up either when I was going around him. Okay, and there's Armadillo right there. So you do not need to go too far in. This is not like hunting legendary cougar or getting the Tiger Stripe Bay Mustang. So now what we're going to do is once we get to Armadillo, we're going to head northwest. And you can actually see just off to the right in the horizon there, there's a much larger hill, and then there's this kind of lower plateau. And we're going to be heading out towards the left side of the plateau. You can see it just above the corpse on my head right now. So we're just going to follow this. Go around these little stables here. And there's a couple of roads here. I'm just going to stay off to the right because every once in a while a lawman does spawn up here. Thankfully, though, when you come out this way, there's really not a lot out here. I mean, there's not a lot out here when you're with John anyway. So you don't need to worry too much about, like, are there any wolves out here or anything? They're really not over in this area that I've ever seen. So we're just going to keep on heading. Just keep following this road here. You might run into a snake every once in a while. So while we're doing this, this whole video was from a request. Somebody wanted to see me get the Otis Miller Revolver using this method. So getting the revolver itself is not difficult because there's really no animation for picking up the gun. It's very brief, it's very quick. What you will have difficulty doing, though, is there are 5 adult images that you can pick up. Some folks say that there's 6. There are not 6. There are 5 images in the chest. And when you pick up those images, that's when you're at risk for getting shot. And then also, if you do not let these corpses rot on top of you, you will have a little bit of difficulty. So with getting the Mustang, you don't need to let the corpses rot. And I say that in the video. But for this particular method, I did not let them rot because I want you to see how difficult this can be. So here, just a second. These damn rocks. That was bad. So you'll notice on the compass here, you can actually see where the gun is. It brings this little icon up, and whether you have the map or not, it's there. And it's just this tiny little cave. And you can either crouch down to get through, but the camera is going to be real close, and you do not have a lot of room. So there's the chest right there. You see how bland this is? Now, you're going to notice the bottom right. I am going to be cycling through. There's the chest, and I'm going to go ahead and open it. Oh, gosh. Okay. Do you see how Arthur stands a little funny? All right, there you go. Left bumper. Bam. We got the gun. That's it. Now, if you want to get these photographs here, you go ahead, cycle to them. Be very careful. You notice how it changed right there? That was not me. So we're going to pick up that photograph. And then once we pick it up, Arthur takes this really funny stance. And then when he comes out of it, the prompt will change. So don't try to chain pick up these items. Pick it up, let him get back into a normal standing position, and then go ahead and pick it up again. Try your best to keep the camera under control. Okay, we're good. Let's try to pick up this one. Yoink. Ooh, that's dangerous. Okay. I think this is the last one. Remember, there's 5 of these. Yoink. Okay. All right, just making sure. It's got the animals, and there's my cattleman that I left on the ground. Now, you do not need to worry when you pick up a new weapon. Even if it drops your old one on the ground, it's not lost. It'll still be on your horse. Okay, so I'm just making sure. But usually, there it is. You can see I have the gun. All right, so let's aim with our rifle. I'm just checking to make sure. If you see anything glowing in there, it means you missed it. Not much else in that chest. Very simple. Check one more time. So I'm just really paranoid. All right, let's get back. And that's it. That's all there is to it. If you get shot picking up the pictures, you don't have to get them. However, if you want your compendium to be filled 100%, you do need to pick up those images. But you can still wait to get them with John, or if you get shot, you'll keep the gun and you'll keep any of the images you picked up. And then you just try again. You'll be able to pick up at least one of them each time. But I got pretty lucky this time, and I was able to get all 5. I have a couple of tries that I recorded. I did at least 3. I think this is my 4th attempt. And the other ones, I would get 3 to 4 of the images, and then I would end up getting shot. Okay, so I'm not going to bore you guys to tears with getting out of here. You guys have seen this already. You just go the exact opposite direction. But I'll see you on the other side, and we can finish up the story of Otis Miller. All right, so we made it all the way out here. And you can find a cave here in the desert. And inside, instead of some grand outlaw monument, it's a small cave and a small chest with a gun and some personal remnants. And that's it. That's what's left. For all the books, songs, and cards and his legend, the actual end of the trail is quiet. It's lonely. And that is what makes it feel more powerful to me. Because Red Dead Redemption has always been interested in the difference between the myth of the West and the reality of it. I mean, we see this during the entire Jim Boy Calloway storyline. I mean, it's this myth of gunslingers and golden revolvers, but the reality is usually bloody, full of regret, and about the forgotten truth of a larger-than-life hero. And Otis Miller's Revolver sits right in the middle of those two things. The man is gone. His life has been reduced to a collectible. It's a beautiful weapon, but it's also sad. He's a finished legend. He's what Arthur and John are in danger of becoming once the world stops remembering the person and starts remembering the story. The interesting thing is that everything around Otis feels so manufactured outside of his own words. He's this adventure hero. But when you actually reach the end of the trail, it's not grand. So to me, Otis Miller ends up representing the difference between the West that people sell and the West that people survive. This is all that remains of Otis Miller after he was betrayed by little Charlie Tatum. I imagine that's why Charlie and Otis's wife are hermits now. Charlie betrayed his friend, so he knows that he can't trust anyone because he's so untrustworthy. And of course, Otis's wife would feel that she can't trust anyone either, so they'd rather live far away from civilization where it's safe. And speaking of Charlie, you know what? We gotta take care of something.
The man's apparently a famous gunslinger.
Yeah, so they say. But don't get what's famous confused with what's true. The ones of us that lived that life, we was too busy being scared for our scalp to talk to no newspaper writers or dime novel men.
Well, what were they like then? Those days they all talk about.
Same as now, I guess. Only longer ago.
You did